Daily Detroit is brought to you by the community. Support our work at patreon.com/Daily Detroit.
Welcome to Your Daily Detroit. I'm Jer Stays.
And I'm Randy Walker. It's Thursday, December 19th, 2019.
Today's show is jam-packed with Detroity stories.
That's an understatement. Also, why do you have to type so loud, Jer?
You know, man, I am sorry. This is like one of the first times you've worked with us kind of doing the headlines. I learned on a 1940s typewriter, a Royal typewriter. I just can't help it, man.
I feel sorry for your poor keyboard.
Today's show and maybe a new keyboard are brought to you by the Sleigh Ball.
It's a winter dance party this Saturday night featuring Raven from RuPaul's Drag Race and an ensemble of local drag queens and DJs.
The event takes place at St. Andrews Hall and doors open at 9 p.m. The party goes on all night, and Daily Detroit listeners, well, you guys get a discount.
That's right. Use code DailyDetroit25 to get 25% off regular or VIP tickets.
There will be a link in the show notes or visit facebook.com/hardtopdetroit for more. All right, first up is the news that the federal government and the Trump administration are going to get more involved in law enforcement in the city of Detroit. U.S. Attorney General William Barr unveiled Operation Relentless Pursuit. That's a $71 million initiative focused on violent crime, gangs, and drug trafficking in a number of cities, including the Motor City, as well as Albuquerque, Baltimore, Cleveland, Memphis, Milwaukee, and Kansas City. The idea is that federal money and talent would partner with local agencies to get the most violent offenders off the streets. And it is true that Detroit has the highest violent crime rate per capita in the country. But Barr was heavy with rhetoric in an editorial in the conservative Detroit News today, saying that policing reforms that offered leniency to violent offenders, anti-police rhetoric, and a surge in police officers assaulted led to increases in crime in 2015 and 2016. The Attorney General referred to Operation Relentless Pursuit as a, quote, surge. And I'd note that that's a term that's often reserved for military operations that will build on the Justice Department's Project Safe Neighborhoods, Project Guardian, and something they're calling DEEP, the Disruption and Early Engagement Program, with the goal of reducing gun crime and preventing mass shootings. There would be, in their words, state-of-the-art technology deployed and about 400 officers nationwide hired for the program. But where those officers are going to specifically go, well, that hasn't been announced.
Jer, I'm going to guess you have some thoughts on this one.
I for sure do. You know, as a longtime city resident, I got to say, and this is regardless of party because both Democrats and Republicans have been heavy on enforcement things, I am always skeptical of anything that seems more focused on closing people into jail cells than opening doors of opportunity. And let's be completely clear here that I am not against lowering crime. Like, lowering crime is a very good goal. But the root and real causes of crime in urban America, it's poverty, and it's a lack of opportunities. And the schools that graduate only 10% of their kids that are ready for college. And we've covered this a ton on this very show. Programs that focus on mostly enforcement, especially, and here's the thing, they're pairing this with cuts to education on a federal level. I mean, these are like Band-Aids being applied to gushing wounds. And our country has a lot of wounds, whether it's inequity, racism, a bunch of other issues. And I mean, I don't think this is a winning combination, because if there were jobs, proper schools, there were more opportunities, people wouldn't turn to crime. And I think that's the thing, is that we've got to get to the root causes of this. And because so many people who try to deal with these issues don't live in these kind of communities or have to deal with them, they don't know how to handle them and make a real dent. And locally, I am really cognizant of the verbiage and the feel. Talking to some neighbors of mine, this feels a lot like stress. Back in the day, it was called Stop the Robberies, Enjoy Safe Streets. And if you didn't know what that was, it was basically an undercover unit of the Detroit Police Department in the early 70s that were thugs. I mean, straight up thugs, killing scores of African Americans. And there's a great episode of Crimetown that I'll link to in the show notes. But I mean, it is scary when you talk about heavy enforcement for a lot of African Americans in this country. And if you want to know one of the key things that powered Mayor Coleman Young into office, Detroit's first black mayor, that I know a lot of listeners find controversial, it was in large response to the evils of that stress unit to the African American community and the large number of people they killed. So I I am personally skeptical. Jared is skeptical.
In a case of, to paraphrase Britney Spears, oops, I demoed again, the Detroit Free Press is reporting that Adamo, the largest contractor as part of the city's massive demolition program, has again demolished the wrong house. They had a contract for more than $25,000 to demolish a house on Alma Street, but they got the address wrong and took down a house a block over. It's absurd, it's not good, and we'll put a link in the show notes to the full story.
A quick reminder that a poverty exemption for your property taxes in the city of Detroit needs to be applied for by the end of tomorrow, December 20th. The exemption can take between half and all of your tax bill off if you are a homeowner who qualifies. The program, which has already been extended, runs through December 20th. To see if you can make it, go to detroitmi.gov or .gov and search for HPTAP. That's HPTAP. We'll also put a link in the show notes.
So here's an interesting one related to that big plant FCA is building on Detroit's east side on Mack. As part of the massive deal to get that done, FCA has transferred half of what will be $1.8 million to Detroit's Housing and Revitalization Department to fund a home repair grant program. Homeowners living near the plant can get up to $15,000 per property to fix up their homes. And here's a key. This is a grant, not a loan.
So you don't have to pay it back.
Applications will open in the spring, and we'll be sure to talk about it again when it becomes available to nearby residents.
Wheelhouse Detroit announced the closure of its Hamtramck location, which has been operating on Joseph Campo for the past 3 years. All stock is 25% off until the shop's last day, and that's December 21st, so that's coming up real soon. The bicycle retail and repair shop will focus on its Detroit location. That's over by the riverfront. It's absolutely beautiful. But I got to say, it's kind of sad to see this. I hate to see retail stores go, and I hate to see bike shops go.
Yeah, also, Wheelhouse Detroit sponsored bike parking at DCFC matches, so I'm wondering if that will continue.
I mean, that'd be pretty awesome if it did. I mean, I know that the owner has been active in the community for a really long time, and I mean, things must have not been working out for this thing to close.
In the western suburb of Dearborn, Beaumont has broken ground on a new $40 million mental health facility. The plan is for it to open in mid-2020. According to press materials, Beaumont and Universal Health Services will have a 150-bed, 100,000-square-foot facility across from their existing hospital on Rotunda Drive. Mental health is an important and growing issue in Michigan. Suicide rates in the state of Michigan have gone up about 33% since 1999, and 1 in 5 Americans deal with mental health issues.
Lakeside Mall in Sterling Heights has been acquired by new owners who plan to eventually add retail and office space to the 100-acre site, and that is up in Macomb County, quite a bit of ways from downtown. But it's interesting since malls, Randy, are they still a thing, man?
I don't know if you need a mall for the plethora of shopping experiences.
I like that word. Plethora is a good one.
But I like the idea of a space where you can go and spend a day, kind of like a destination venue.
There's definitely like a need for that. And I actually met somebody the other month that actually works at the old Fairlane Mall. That's actually like, it's still a mall in part, but there's also a huge chunk of it that's apparently Ford office space.
Oh, wow. That's a good use for the space, I guess, since shops are leaving.
Well, and there's lots of parking and all of that kind of stuff. Yeah. I wonder what'll happen out there. You know, Macomb County is, you know, definitely growing, and the farther out you get, there's definitely a lot of investment happening. I wonder if like kind of recycling and upcycling the space is a good idea.
Ooh, I wonder if they'll put in an observation tower for the Golden Butthole. This is kind of neat, as it's right in my neighborhood. The Funky Ferndale Art Fair has been named one of America's best art fairs by artfaircalendar.com, based on voting by patrons, collectors, organizers, and artists.
Wow, there's a lot of F's in that story, but I'm glad to see Ferndale getting some plaudits. You know, speaking of places with F's, Fox 2 apparently ripped on Ferndale for not having enough parking earlier this week, and because I guess they went to Valentine for some company party, and they were like just very upset about this.
There's a private lot right next door. There's a municipal lot behind that private lot, and there's street parking. So I don't know. Did they not want to walk the extra 50 steps?
According to HometownLife.com, the Novi Planning Commission has postponed a rezoning decision for Sakura Novi, a $50 million mixed-use development featuring Asian restaurants as well as apartments with a Japanese garden. The postponement is due to several questions about the project that would require rezoning along Grand River and 11 Mile east of Town Center Drive. They keep talking about this one, that it might happen, it might not happen. One of the things I've read in the notes about this and stories over time is that they really want to make this a foodie destination. And Randy, if there are foodies in the world, I know that you are one of them. What do you think of the idea of a foodie destination, especially out somewhere in like Novi? It's definitely like a distance away.
It would have to be one heck of a restaurant to get me to go all the way to Novi. 2 weekends ago, a friend had to twist my arm to get me to go to Farmington Hills.
Well, all right, but here's the thing. Was that place in Farmington Hills worth the drive?
Yeah, we went to India Flavors, and it was amazing food, so I would consider going back. In its December email newsletter, Ann Arbor's The Ride bus service announced a partnership with the Regional Transit Authority of Southeast Michigan to connect Detroit and Ann Arbor with commuter bus service. The service is nonstop and open to anyone. The first rides will happen later this winter.
Randy, this actually sounds pretty cool. I know that you used to work in Ann Arbor. I've had to go to Ann Arbor quite often for various purposes. I mean, what do you think of this idea?
I would have loved to take a bus to avoid driving in Michigan winter weather.
Yeah, it seems like a no-brainer. I'm also glad to see this happen. It's like a small step that I put this under the category of things you're supposed to do, but I'm glad that they're doing it. I'm glad that Ann Arbor is taking the initiative because they really do have it is smaller, but they do have a well-run bus system.
Downtown donut destination Dilla's Delights has been closed for December and will remain closed for the rest of the month. Owner Herm posted on Instagram that he's resting after beating cancer earlier this year. He plans to reopen the shop January 3rd.
I say that I'm glad to hear these details from you, Randy. I got to say, I get better, Uncle Herm. He's done a lot of good things. We all need the locally owned tasty donuts we can get.
They are so good.
Food, drink, travel, and entertainment website Thrillist named AB's Amazing Ribs of Dearborn Heights and Royale with Cheese in the Cass Corridor to its list of 10 best halal restaurants in America.
I am surprised that nothing in Dearborn made the list. Have you been to either of these places, Jer?
Well, I got to say, Royale with Cheese, I have not been to AB's Amazing Ribs, although when I first read it, I thought it'd be really funny if it would be Ab's Amazing Ribs, because abs and abdominals and ribs. But anyway, Royale with Cheese I've actually enjoyed a few times. I think they do a pretty good job. And I know you're persnickety about fries, but I kind of enjoy they have very funky fries. They're like crescent moon shaped or something. I enjoyed them.
They don't get crispy enough for me. OpenTable has announced their top 100 restaurants of 2019. It includes 3 Metro Detroit favorites, Phoenicia and Tallulah in Birmingham, and Mabel Gray in Hazel Park.
Can I say, like, Mabel Gray is a fave. I know it's a fave of everybody, like, on our team. Like, Mabel Gray is a place where it's like, oh, the husband or the wife wants to go do something. Mabel Gray is always the answer. And I know that Sven has had great things to say about the other two. What are your thoughts, man?
I love Mabel Gray as well, but I have never been to the others.
I feel like a road trip's in order, although I feel like a very expensive road trip.
Yeah.
All right, before we let you go today, one last story. A waitress at Leo's Coney Island in Taylor who didn't know she was pregnant gave birth Sunday at the diner. Fox 2 Detroit reports that the mother took 2 pregnancy tests in September, and they came out negative. After the baby's arrival, emergency crews called by the waitress's coworkers took mother and baby out on a stretcher. And, I mean, it was something that's kind of a crazy event. If you didn't know you were pregnant and you just this happens, I can't even imagine. If you'd like to help the mother, who obviously can't work right now, you can drop off donations at the diner on Telegraph or via a GoFundMe. And of course, I'll put a link in the show notes.
Did the baby come with a side of fries?
Randy, just for that bad joke, you should donate double what you were going to do to the GoFundMe, man. And that's all for today. Randy, thanks for sitting in the big chair today.
I should say something witty here, but man, that was a lot of work.
If you like what we're doing, consider telling a friend about the Daily Detroit podcast. It's a great way to push Detroit's conversation forward.
And if you have feedback, send it to dailydetroit@gmail.com. With that, I'm Randy Walker.
Yes, and Randy, thank you for your hard work today. In fact, I know it's a lot of work, and really appreciate you coming by today. I'm Jer Stays. Take care of each other, and we'll see you around Detroit.